Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. It's hot and mowing your lawn is hard work. Today we're going to look at alternatives to grass. Also, most insecticides don't kill all bugs. You have to use the right one. Which one is it? That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Joellen Diamond. Ms. Joellen is a TSU Extension Agent in Tipton County, and Mr. D is here.
Howdy.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
All right, Joellen, let's talk about lawn alternatives, right? Not everybody wants a nice, plush, beautiful Zoysia or Bermuda lawn, right?
No.
Right.
And first we got to find out what do you want to do with your yard.
Right.
I mean, you've got all this space around your house. What is it? How do you use it? What is it used for? Okay. And maybe you can do something different with it. Also, do you have kids? Do they need to run around on something large and flat? How about pets? Now, it's dogs don't necessarily need grass all the time. So any surface they'll run on. They'll have fun, you know. So pets, you don't have to have a lawn just for, you say, oh, well, I can't get rid of my lawn because I have a dog. No, they don't care.
Right. They don't care.
They really don't care. Also, you might have a steep slope that you don't want to mow anymore, and that would, you know, be nice to have something different on it.
Sure.
Also, you might have a shady area under a tree. Can't get grass to grow. Or there might be small spaces on maybe the north side or a niche somewhere around your house that doesn't get a lot of sunlight and grass doesn't grow. All these zero lot lines now, you know, there's very small space, and on the north side sometimes grass there's not enough light to grow because the building is there. So we just got to think about how you're going to use the space first, or what the problem is that you're trying to solve. Now, one thing you do need to remember, I know, you don't have to do something every week with an alternative, but you still have to maintain it at some point.
So it still has to be maintained.
Yeah, there is no such thing as a no maintenance landscape.
I was waiting for you to say that.
There is no sense of, you might save your time every week, but you're going to have to work out there at some point.
Good point.
So let's go over the expensive things you can do.
Look at Mr. D. He like
put in a pool.
He knows.
You know, it's hot outside. Put in a pool. Yeah, that's an expensive one. How about a basketball court or a volleyball court? There's a lot of people that build up sand and make their own permanent volleyball courts out there. A putting green. But made of artificial turf.
Artificial turf, all right,
Then let's talk about artificial turf, because that's used a lot in the Southwest and in the xeriscaping, because they want the green look, but they can't grow grass, so they don't want to use the water for grass.
Takes a lot less water.
A lot less water.
And mowing,
but it still has to be maintained.
Okay.
And wear it out.
Yeah, it still has to be maintained.
Okay.
How about ponds to put fish in? In fact, I remember seeing a whole backyard that was a series of ponds that were all connected. They had a lot of koi fish in them, and then they had paths over them with patio areas here and there and landscaping, and it was really nice. But that's kind of expensive to do.
Right, you got to maintain
those too,
And you have to maintain that, yes. All right, so those are the expensive things. Now, some of these other things can be expensive, but they're not as expensive.
Like gravel.
Like gravel, yes. We're going to talk about hardscapes.
All right.
Flagstones, all different kinds of, Arkansas flagstone. There's blue flagstone. There's all kinds of stone out there that you can make paths with.
Okay.
And you can either cement them together and make it nice and flat, or you can just set them on the ground and then plant little dwarf plants around them, so it's not solid landscaping. Then there is bricks and brick pavers. Concrete pavers that look like bricks that you put together. There are rocks. There's mulch. There are seashells. But you know what? I would highly recommend, and most places that have especially rocks as part of the landscaping, they will put landscape fabric down first.
Uh-huh.
So because our soil around here, if you step on those rocks, they're going to end up into the soil, then it's defeating the purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the same token, you can do a lot of interesting things with different rocks, and I have seen that. But if you let the leaves and debris fall on that and don't pick it up, it's going to just decompose, and then you're going to have the same problem with your rocks where there's going to be organic matter for weeds to grow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got to there's maintenance to all of these different things. There is something called a porous concrete. They're doing this a lot. You pour water over the concrete and just goes right straight through it.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And so really, really nice, kind of expensive. I've seen people put that on their driveway in strips. You know, just where the tires go, and then they'll plant low ground cover in between.
Yeah, the old Hollywood Drive is what they call that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but that's one way to use that. And then, of course, there's also polymers. They'll put aggregate and polymers, and it's supposed to look like concrete. So and they make stepping stones out of this. There's many more things out there that you can use, but hardscapes, not a plant.
Hardscapes. Right.
Then we got to talk about plants. Okay, so you say, well, I don't want to do any of those things, or I don't have enough area that I want to do. I want to do something else. Okay, there are people that use meadows as their yard. Now, a lot of people have long amounts of turf to use with this. Large properties, you know, they will get meadow mixes from different parts of the country. They're formulated for different parts of the country, so you can get a meadow mix, and you can find ornamental grasses and plants that are native to your area, and then you plant those instead of grass.
See that? Okay.
All right, so that's one thing you can do, and that's kind of, you know, popular. And I had an ornithologist friend of mine who said he was going to do that with his yard because
the meadow
because he thought it would attract more birds.
So you don't mow it, you just kind of let it grow up?
Yeah, it's because it's all native, and it doesn't get, you know, real high or tall. So
I got some native stuff at my place that gets real tall.
It's real tall.
Some of the native stuff is mare's tail, and you know, it'll get 12 feet tall.
Well, see, and that's one of the problems that we are going to have in this area with changing anything other than grass, even though we have the same problem with grass, is we have a lot of weed pressure here.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We are in a transition zone, so we get northern weeds and southern weeds and everything in between. And
Eastern weeds and western weeds.
We have perennial weeds and annual weeds.
Yeah,
we have winter weeds and summer weeds. So that is going to be the major problem in the Mid-South here with us trying to keep something else other than lawns. Because the weeds, if my lawn is mostly crabgrass anyway, you know,
so is mine.
And not grass. It wouldn't be green if it weren't for those two.
That's right. That's right.
So, you know, there's weeds everywhere. But another thing you might try is mass plantings. There's, you know, just a series of beds with your flagstone in between, and just have trees, shrubs, plants, perennials, annuals, just mix it all up and just have different areas and just mass that kind of planting.
Which would help cut down maybe on some of your weed pressure.
It would.
The
now, if you've got shady area, moss. Moss is really popular.
I've seen a lot of
and moss looks really, really good in the shade. Yeah. And I don't, you know, it really does more mimic lawn than anything else that I can think of. And it's very easy to maintain. So, I mean, moss is a great alternative for a shady area.
Okay.
Another thing that seems to be popular is clover, both Dutch clover and red clover.
Right.
But I was thinking about that, and you know, that can be a foot tall or so, or you know, get up that way. And if you have animals and kids that are running around, that might be a little prohibitive for them to run around on.
Right.
But if you don't, that would be a great alternative.
And you might, if you're running around barefooted, you might get stung by a honeybee.
You might.
I'm speaking from experience.
So you know that.
Yeah,
all right.
You might get stung by a bee. You never know. And of course, there's all kinds of plants that are used as ground covers. We've got mondo grasses. We've got Vinca major and Vinca minor. We've got shrubs that are small, like junipers. There's a lot of ground-hugging junipers that will do great in a sunny or on a slope area. We've got oh, good grief, Nandinas that are dwarf, monkey grasses, creeping jenny, ajuga. I mean, the list goes on and on, and it can. And we're talking hostas, daylilies, shade. We've got stuff for shade. They've got stuff for partly shade. We've got stuff for sunny. So anything will work. You can plant something anywhere. Just remember, there is going to be some maintenance with it.
It's going to be some maintenance. You hear that, Mr. D?
I hear that. Some more than others.
Some more than others. Joel, that was good stuff. Thank you much. Thank you much. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. All right, Mr. D, let's talk a little bit about insecticides.
Let's do.
And let's start by talking about carbaryl.
Carbaryl, it's a carbamate, 1-naphtha-methyl carbamate is what carbaryl is. Been around for a long time. Developed by, I think, Union Carbide in 1958.
Wow.
I was 3 years old.
Oh, how about that?
3 years old. I still remember
You still remember?
Yeah.
How about that?
It is the third most used insecticide in the United States. The trade name was Sevin. For years and years. It was Sevin and Sevin. And I found some Sevin somewhere a few years ago that wasn't carbaryl. And I don't know the nerve of them to do that.
The nerve of them.
But anyway, it is most of the insecticides that I looked at were acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, which is acetylcholinesterase is has something to do with the synapse, nerve ending, allowing nerve impulses to work, and it inhibits that. So it basically it inhibits the nervous system of these critters. And these things were derived from nerve gases.
Oh boy.
Developed by the military organizations.
Wow.
But they're not the same thing.
Sure.
But it has the same mode of action. Acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. But it is it can be absorbed, you know, or you can ingest it. And so chewing insects, this is usually a pretty good product for chewing insects because they ingest it and then it does its thing. But very, very widely used insecticide. Insecticides are not immune to resistance. And I can remember back in my years as an extension agent, at one time, this was the most widely recommended product to use for flea control. And it got to the point where it took like 10 times more carbaryl to kill a flea than it did when they originally started using it. And so I don't even think you see this recommended for flea control anymore because I think fleas are pretty much resistant to it. It's not a restricted use pesticide. You know, you follow the label, and it will take care of still commonly recommended for a lot of the chewing insects. I think squash bugs and a lot of caterpillars that it'll work. It works on a lot of it works on the caterpillars that BT takes care of too, and so that's why it's important to identify the insects, because you would much rather use Bacillus thuringiensis on a caterpillar that it's effective on than to use Sevin, because it is a non-selective. It will kill, you know, just most insects, including beneficials.
Right.
So
the bees or something, that comes to mind.
Right.
So
be careful when you use it. Follow the label and target, you know, the pest that you want to kill.
Okay.
But
a lot of folks use that. It's highly recommended. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So the next insecticide, let's talk about permethrin.
Permethrin. It's a synthetic pyrethroid, been around since 1973, and it mimics the chemicals the naturally occurring chemicals that derive from chrysanthemums, pyrethrum, which is a very toxic insecticide that's developed from mums. But there are a lot of synthetic pyrethroids out there. Permethrin is the one that I'm mentioning here, but there's also cypermethrin.
Yeah.
There's alpha cypermethrin, and you know there's a lot of synthetic pyrethroids out there. They are also non-selective. They will kill about anything you put on them, and so it's very important that you kind of know what your beneficials are and try to avoid using them to avoid taking out your beneficial insects. But very, very widely used pesticide.
And I'm sure it attacks the nervous system like the rest of your insecticides.
Right, it is also a acetylcholine inhibitor. It was, when they first used it, when permethrin was first developed, it was primarily used for humans to control scabies and lice. Nix, it's a product that when you have head lice, you know, that you, NIX, that you use to take, is commonly recommended. Hunters use permethrin to spray on their clothes and boots and things like that to kill ticks. And chiggers also, keep chiggers from attacking them. But in 1973, I said it's been around since 1973, but permethrin made the list of the World Health Organization's. It's considered a list of essential medicines.
Wow.
An insecticide, the World Health Organization considers an essential medicine because of all the insect pests that, you know, carry, you know, life-threatening diseases all over the world. Insects will develop resistance to permethrin also. It's a product, my first contact with permethrin was in insecticidal ear tags. Flea collars. And I did some work with the beef industry with insecticidal ear tags. I'd ride around and use binocular to count flies on cows, and it was really good for a while. But after a few years, the flies developed a resistance to it, and so they start using different products and mix it up a little bit. And it's important to do that. If you go to the Red Book, and UT's Red Book, and look at the different insecticides that are listed, many times you'll see a carbamate and then a pyrethroid and sometimes an organophosphate for the same insect. Mix them up. You know, it means you got to have 3 products on the shelf, but mix them up a little bit, and that will help you not run into an insect resistance problem.
So the next insecticide let's talk about is imidacloprid, which is one that we're hearing a lot about and which actually causes a little controversy.
It does. It does. It's a neonicotinoid. It's one of the neonicotinoids, and it you know, resembles nicotine. Fipronil is a trade name. Transform is another trade name. It is a systemic insecticide. It acts as an insect neurotoxin, which also prevents the acetylcholine from transmitting impulses between the nerve synapses, and so it interferes with the nervous system like some of the other products that we talked about. It is a contact insecticide and ingestion insecticide, so you know, they eat what you spray it on. I know it's probably one of the few products that takes care of aphids and grain sorghum, and so it's a very there's some emergency use you know, permits out there because of it is the only product that will work on some insects out there. Now, there are some controversy out there that it's been accused of being a part of the decline in naturally occurring, you know, native honeybees. But you know, there are no
colony collapse disorder.
Colony collapse disorder and all that from even the bee producers, but you know, there are no native honeybees in this country. The honeybee we have is Apis mellifera. It's the European honeybee, and we brought it to this country. And there's been some research. There's been quite a lot of research done, and some of the research I've seen is it's more of a the research I've seen has not traced it directly to neonicotinoids. It's been several things. It's been
diet.
It's been hive beetles, a combination, you know, mites and things like that have been part of the problem.
Yeah, we actually had the Bartlett beet whisperer, David Glover, was on here telling us that.
Right. So I think some of the negative press that's gotten is not deserved. You follow the label, and it's a very, very widely used. I mean, it's used. The uses of used for termite control in homes and flea control, and it's just very non-toxic to mammals, so it's safe as far as people are concerned. And
read the label.
Read the label, follow the label.
On all of these.
That's right.
All right. So thanks, Mr. Davis. Good stuff.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Our blueberries have done really well this year. As a matter of fact, we've already begun harvesting them. The Bermuda grass around the blueberries have done well also, and that's not good. We don't like our blueberries to have to compete with Bermuda grass for water and nutrients. So I have in my spray mixture a product that will kill Bermuda grass. It may take more than one application, but I'm going to treat it now and maybe come back a little bit later if the Bermuda grass is not gone and take it out. As Sethoxydim is the active ingredient. I've also included a crop oil concentrate, a methylated seed oil, as a surfactant, which is very important. If you don't include that, the herbicide won't work. So I'm just going to try to do as good a job as I can, and I'm going to kill a pretty wide swath here because I don't want this Bermuda grass to mess with my blueberries. That ought to do the trick.
So Q&A segment, y'all ready for these? These are good questions. These are really good questions. All right, so here's our first viewer email. Do you know what this is? I think I grew it from seed, but the writing washed off. Could it be angel trumpet? And this is from Miss Kathleen right here in Memphis. Angel trumpet, if you look at the leaves, all right, you look at the little...
They're kind of fuzzy looking.
Yeah, fuzzy, little purplish stems.
Yeah, and it got a kind of thick texture to them, little fuzzy on the leaves.
Makes me
nice.
think.
Yeah, I would think she's probably right.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Though, if you look at the leaves, it does look fuzzy. It has a purple stems. I think that's what that is, Miss Kathleen. So that will be your angel trumpet. Thanks for the question. Here's our next viewer email. Can you tell me if this is a fern or a pretty weed? I found it growing in a fence row on my property, and this is from Miss Sharon. So, fern or pretty weed?
It's a pretty fern.
It's a pretty fern, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, lucky. She's lucky. I mean, there are native ferns around. So
what do they call them, bracken ferns? Or
there's so many. There are several different ones, but it's obviously growing there and it's doing well. And
it's a lot of it.
And I think she's very fortunate that it's there. I wouldn't. That's a very nice fern. I like that.
Yeah, so it's not bad. So it is a fern.
Yeah. Now, of course, now a weed.
Yeah.
What is?
A weed is a plant growing out of place.
Yeah. If
it's not where you want it,
then
it's considered a weed. But I would, like you, I would want it.
I would want that fern there. It's pretty.
It seems like it was a lot of it, and it looked healthy.
It looked very healthy.
Yeah,
I would
so obviously it
it
likes the conditions that it's in.
Might hand pull some of the others away and give it more room so it can spread.
Okay.
It's good.
All right, so there you have it, Miss Sharon's pretty fern. How about that? Okay. All right, here's our next viewer email. Can you deadhead a knockout rose by cutting off a whole branchlet if every bloom on it is spent? And this is from Miss Kathleen right here in Memphis. So the old knockout rose.
Oh,
right?
wow.
I have one at home. So what do you think about that? Do you think it's necessary to prune off?
No, you don't have to cut the whole, because all roses you're supposed to cut back the branch after the spent bloom is gone to the fifth or seventh leaf one, and then you want to cut to an outward a leaf that is facing outward, because you want to get the plant to spread out for air circulation. Because of all the disease problems with roses, you give as much air circulation as possible. So no, she doesn't have to do that. But I'm kind of curious as to why there's a whole bunch of them on that particular stem.
Okay.
Because that reminds me of a problem that we have now called rose rosette. And if that's the case, I mean, not with the picture, we don't know.
Right, we don't know.
But if it does have rose rosette, you might as well just take out the whole plant because it's never going to go away.
Right.
And it's a mite that vectors that, so it'll spread it around.
Yeah, it's an areophyte mite. Yeah.
So I don't, if you like roses and this one particular one has it, you might want to get rid of it faster so it doesn't affect the other roses you have if you have more roses.
Right. And another thing too about knockout roses, and of course, again, I have one at home, they're pretty much self-cleaning.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious as to why. I mean, why does it look so bad that she wants to cut it off? And that's what made me think of Rose Rosette.
So there you have it, Miss Kathleen. A picture would help us out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're thinking maybe Rose Rosette or something else. Right? Yeah. But if it's Rose Rosette, it has to come out. All right. So Mr. D, Joella, it's been fun.
Yes, it has.
All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching us. It's the half-hour show too short? Every week we have extra videos we post online at familyplotgarden.com. Go watch them. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.